welcome to Show Studio. It's our second roundup of the day, but it's a nice one because it's London and we're here in London and we can talk about London. And it was a nice season. I think there was lots to talk about, lots that sort of took place and lots of different aesthetics, which is always what we really like London for. But before we kind of jump in and talk about the highs and lows, if there were any, I'll let my wonderful set of panellists introduce themselves, starting with you, Charlotte.
I'm Charlotte Roberts. I'm a stylist and I co-edit the Mushbit magazine.
I'm Mandi, Lennard, and I run a fashion consultancy called Mandi's Basement.
I'm Camilla Morton and I'm a fashion writer and I reviewed the shows this season for Now Fashion and WGSN.
I'm Rebecca Gonsalves and I'm Deputy Fashion Editor at The Independent.
Gone serious. Yeah. So I'm going to throw it open because there's so many different shows and it's hard to kind of pick a starting point in some ways. You know, in New York this morning we focused a lot on Marc Jacobs, obviously, because we've heard that's no longer going to be in operation. But then off the back of that, we've got Katie Noella, who are going to be in London soon, which is exciting. But it's not the same with London. It's harder to sort of pinpoint a news piece or a particular focus. What were the highlights to everyone? Mandi, what stood out for you?
I think having followed all the international collections, what I loved about London was there was just so much good stuff. I mean, it really was great. I mean, I went to a lot of shows and I don't know, there's nothing worse than going to a bad show. Yeah. And I found that every show was great and it was time well spent, and I was really proud of the younger designers and how they're maturing, and there was just a hell of a lot that was good. Yeah. And that stood out in the internationally.
Yeah, definitely. It did feel like a little bit like the season for the younger designers. Like a lot of the shows that everyone was talking about, like, you know, people spoke a lot about Molly Goddard's show and how great that was, and it felt like those real young ones had really sort of come into their own and were grabbing kind of headlines.
I mean, I still miss those kind of guerrilla events that London used to do. And that for me is still missing, but in a way the fact that wasn't there was underlying the maturity of even someone like Ryan Lowe. I mean, that was a real highlight for me.
Yeah, we just launched an interview actually this minute of Ryan where he's talking through the collection, so check that out.
Yeah,
great. Rebecca, what struck your fancy?
Well, I think what was interesting was going into the season, it was kind of a bit sad because Meaden weren't showing, Richard Nicol wasn't showing, and just thought, oh, you know, London keeps losing people because
and Louise Wilson's memorial it started with.
Of course, that was obviously a really heartbreaking, poignant time, but I think it just, one thing that I absolutely adored was the Giles show. I just thought it was fun and beautiful, and I think possibly the low light was Kendall Jenner because everyone else was kind of enjoying themselves and dancing in it and being kind of a personality as well as just a person modelling, and I think that was perhaps a bit beyond her at this stage in her career. She's obviously really nervous about things and quite rigidly trained perhaps. Yeah. And she couldn't let herself go.
Tell us why did she not engage so much?
Well, everyone else was kind of stopping.
I'm just joking.
Okay, I'm just dying, but keep going.
Everyone else was stopping and voguing and posing, and it really ramped up the atmosphere there, and she just kind of walked back, and it was just like, well, you know, if you don't feel confident, I guess that's something you have to learn, but perhaps not the best casting for that show if it is so personality led, and that really fueled, because it was in the old St Martin's building, and there was just all this moss and foliage, and it was really creepy and really dark, and then it was just a really amazing performance.
I loved Anna Cleveland. Anna Cleveland in that show was just amazing, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was.
She was pirouetting.
Didn't she take like about half an hour to finish doing?
And then like
so
Erin O'Connor, who obviously...
But the clothes came to life with the movements of the models.
Yeah. But do you think it's interesting you say you miss those guerrilla events? Because do you think in a sense, and I guess Giles can do it because he's been on the schedule for so long, he's such a kind of a touchstone of London Fashion Week in a sense, and you know, in a way, the establishment now. And do you think that's part of what he was doing here, was trying to bring back those kind of theatrical narratives, slightly bonkers, quite immersive shows?
I don't think it was bonkers. I think it was like a couture show. I think he's a real couturier and he really understands cut. And he isn't all about just churning out processed cheese. He really knows how to cut and drape. And I think the way he sculpts fabric, he really showcased that.
I was sat next to Kim Sion at Giles' show, and Kim Sion.
Okay, sorry.
And the front row at his show was insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was full on.
Yeah.
And there were just flashes of photographers. It was just lots of cheering before the show had even started. And Kim said to me, she said, God, it's not even about the show, is it?
Yeah.
And I just thought, God, that's really amazing. Like, it's quite ironic because we were at an amazing show, but yeah, in a way, it's the calling card for a lot of the designers.
It's interesting. Let's talk a little bit, just kind of before we delve into specific, other specific designers, about the point that Rebecca made, because I think it is important to note that we have seen a few people kind of drop off the schedule. Richard Nichols is a good example, but also, Medium Kirchhoff. And how do we stop that from happening? Because I think, I've spoken, it sounds like I'm kind of like the Grim Reaper, the voice of doom, but I've spoken to a few other editors and journalists recently, and there is this sense of there's certain people that everyone's kind of watching cautiously, worried that the same thing's going to happen to them, and no one wants to name names, and no one wants
and
to...
Louise Gray as well, we're still missing.
Still missing, exactly, and you worry, and you look at people, and there's something so awful. You said there's nothing worse than going to a bad show, but I think there's nothing worse than going to a good show knowing that designer probably might not be able to show the next season, and that's happening a lot. Why is that? Do we just put too much on our schedule? Is it just too much young talent? How are we going to stop it happening?
But I think what is very particular about London is that London is all about the new and the next, and people are still finding their feet. And Paris, Milan, and New York, they have such big businesses and conglomerates and order books coming their way that London it's a benefit as much as it's a negative, but it's all about giving a platform to the new and the next people. And I think the fact that the closing show of the first day is the St Martin's MA, I think that's brilliant that it's all put on the same schedule and it gives people a chance. And it is quite a cutthroat business. It is sort of, it is a difficult business. It seems all glamorous on the surface, but it is a kill or be killed type situation. And I think that it's good to give everybody a platform to get out there and show their craft and get attention to them. And it is bad when really talented people don't show on the season. But I also think that it's one of these things where fashion is about what's happening now and who's there at that moment. And I think that's what London is really good at celebrating. Maybe nurturing and prolonging and sustaining isn't something, but I think that...
So should we have just more acceptance? I think it's interesting you say that. Do you think we should just get to the point where we go, yep, that's the downside of what London's so great at, that people will come and go more than in other cities? But
well, the way I've said that, it sounds really harsh, but I think that, I think that it's all about giving people that opportunity to have that platform to present their collections, to get their orders, to show to the buyers, to show, to the press, and to sort of, and it is that opportunity, and you have to seize it and run with it. And I think journalists and buyers, they have a responsibility. If you go to a show and you rate it and you think it's great, you have to follow through with that. You can't just be a fair weather friend. You have to support them throughout the season. And I think lessons can be learned with Medium not showing or Richard not showing, but also they're well loved within the industry, and they can pick up consultancies or this. But I think if you really love a talent, it's too late to say, oh shoot, they've gone. You've got to put your money where your mouth is and support it.
I think it's interesting you said the buyers and the press should support.
Share responsibility.
I think that's part of the problem sometimes. I had a really interesting conversation. We did an interview with Thomas Tate here last week, and he kind of actually talked about that weird kind of gap that you get between press and buyers, where you get to this point where you're like hyped and everyone's talking about you, and obviously that's great. You don't want to turn around and tell people to stop it. But you get to this point where your kind of press is there, but your buyer's there, and then there's this weird gap, and it's how
you have to sort of, it is a difficult balance, because you have to sort of like appear to be absolutely everywhere and irresistible, but also proof is in the pudding, and the orders are there. But I think with Instagram and sort of accessibility to designers now, I think it does help people put a different. Would you agree? I think it does sort of like.
I'm a bit dubious about the designers being given a platform so early on. And when I talk about those guerrilla shows, like having a show in an underground disused tube station and stuff like that, it's with the system in place at the moment with New Gen and everything, it's almost like a fight for the new between them and Fashionista and whoever. And people are almost given a that platform too soon.
Yeah.
And like with Thomas Tate, it's heartwarming hearing what you just said, because in a way, we know he's good, we know he's a great guy, he's a lovely person. Yeah. He's got a good team with him at the moment, and he's got some, with the LVMH, he's got some credit, the cred with that. And I like hearing that, because in a way, it's going to break for him at some point. Yeah. So, but I think it's worse when it breaks too soon. The only designer I've seen it happen to straight away who managed was Christopher Kane, because that was just so immediate, it was insane. But you get a lot of hype early on, and then you feel like, oh, the press treat you like you're a has-been, and people like us, get calls saying, who's new, want to write about someone who's new, and it's almost like, well, what about Jonathan Saunders or what's, it's like, hang on a minute, just slow down. And I think, like even someone like Jeremy Scott back in the day, these were all people that were bubbling under quietly off schedule. And I think I think
it's harder to do that now. It's really smart.
It is, but that's an issue. For me, it's an issue. It really is. That you can't do an off schedule happening.
And you can't do it. I think a really good example. He's my friend, disclosure, but a really good example on the men's schedule is Peter. Do you guys know? It's like Pietr is his label. It's a guy called Sebastian who runs it, and he's done a presentation off schedule for the last 3 seasons.
And he's not on our radar.
But he's for the men's, probably not for the women's, because he doesn't do women's wear. But everyone goes, and I think it's just I think there is a space for it, but you have to kind of plug away at it. I've got really stuck in my hair. You have to kind of plug away at it in terms of. But you're right. The way he did it, he's set up next to.
Yeah, but you forget that Gareth, Roxander, they all took a long time to get going, and I worked with Roxander in those kind of instrumental years. And I think what was great about that was when we did the deal with Whistles, not Whistles, maybe when she did the deal with Debenhams, it didn't really matter if it was wrong for the brand, because the foundation was so solid by then that she could afford a few missteps.
But I think we get to the point with the really young designers, don't you, where they almost don't have the chance to kind of find their feet. It's like they've got 3 seasons to make it, and then if they don't, they... Yeah.
No, but I would disagree with that, because they're given this message that they have to show themselves in 3 seasons, and then are they going to go on further? But if they don't, it's almost like that's a big load of whirlwind hype, and then they almost need to just get on with it.
No, but I mean purely financially, some of them just can't go on.
Well, the money that they get for New Gen and the others isn't even enough to do a show anyway.
It's a help tool.
So, I've worked with designers where 3 seasons after they did early shows, they still owed the agencies money for models. Yeah. So
you work with quite a lot of young brands, whether it's styling or just kind of consultancy, that kind of thing. Tell me about how you think that it can be sort of adjusted, because I think it's interesting. Some of the younger ones that they have real clear ideas about what they want to do. I think a really good example of that is someone like Claire Barrow. She knows exactly what her voice is, and how do you think that we encourage people like that to kind of keep going?
Well, Claire's got a super distinctive style, and her presentation was one of the best, the High Flyers one. Like, it was really strong, it was really simple. It was kind of like tucked away at the back. But
all the right people were there though.
All the right people were there, like the whole time. She was so busy talking to everybody. And the same with Ryan, like he did 2 presentations in a row, and now he's obviously done this season, he did the show, which was incredible, but those 2 presentations got just as much hype as the show. And I think maybe there's too much focus on having a show and doing it kind of by the book, when you have Claire, and she said, like, I don't want to do a show, I just want to do a really great presentation. Because if you can put all your resources into that and then still have some left over, it's actually a little bit smarter than just having that 3 minutes, and you can still make as much of an impact.
And so much of her work is about kind of, she has such strong ideas of like, not just in terms of fashion, but like the political ideas that back up her clothing. And I think for her actually to be able to do a presentation, then, as you say, to be able to talk to editors and buyers, that is what really makes her work really
that's so important, especially when you're establishing yourself and your voice, because you're young and you've got something interesting to say, to be able to meet the people and explain your vision, and the people who can, impact your career. It's so important. It's so much more worthwhile than doing a catwalk show that might not be that well attended. And,
that intimate
and might not be ready.
presentation. I mean, really, she was Charlotte was saying, she was like full on talking to Patty Wilson, Mickey from Paper Magazine. It was a fantastic event for her, and just a few mannequins. Also, her boyfriend's hot, Owen Pratt. He's like the new guy coming through that's doing the music for the show.
And like Eloise, like all her, like their kind of crowd of like collaborators is quite interesting. Like her campaigns are always really strong. So I think it's like looking at that other stuff that surrounds it, not just the show and presentation, that kind of elevates them and makes people excited.
But I think there is this pressure, isn't there? That I think in London the press has kind of got their head wrapped around the idea that presentation is great, but then you do see certain other press confused by it, or they prefer to go and sit at a show. In London, I think partly because of when London Collections Men started, where it was very presentation heavy, we all kind of got our head around that. But I still think there's this idea that doing a presentation is kind of it's the poor man's show.
It is seen as second class, but I think what's interesting is the way that things are shared on social media. A presentation is so much better for getting images and kind of getting close-ups, having something that's not a blurry sideways shot of a model, speeding past you.
Good point.
It's so much more democratic. You're not, front row, blah, 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 tiered until you can't actually see anything. You're just there to be there. I think presentations are really underused.
But do you not think there's two different types of design, isn't there? The design like Claire, it's about things like beautiful illustration, hand painting. So it suits a presentation. It's not so much about this kind of like wham bam statement. It is about kind of like pieces and clothing and the relationship between clothing and what you feel about yourself and what you think. So she suits a presentation, but I think some designers, their work wouldn't actually stand up in a presentation because it is all about kind of making an immediate impact, having like a little sexy story.
But then I don't think one size fits all in any respect. So, I mean, it's a bit of both. And also having a presentation for 4 hours, editors and buyers are more likely to, pop
like that one-on-one appointments, even if you don't have a presentation. Like if Medium did that or something like that, people would... Also, because it seems sort of secretive and like under the radar, like one-on-one appointments could work just as well, even if you can't do a presentation or a show.
It's important to be under the radar for a while because you've got to build your fans, your genuine fans.
I'm so glad you asked it because I was going to say it feels like there's such currency now in not being known and being a bit hard to access. We're seeing a lot of brands. I think Off-White's a really good example of that. That's kind of like, I know Virgil's kind of everywhere now, but for a long time it's very difficult to find like information or even to buy it. And I wonder, do you think that that's kind of going to become a slightly cool new strategy to actually be really hard to get in touch with?
I think he was quite visible on the streetwear scene.
But I mean, like, you couldn't buy it. It was really hard to buy, and then that meant when it kind of popped up somewhere, it would sell out because I think people knew about it all right, but it was hard to get your hands on. But do you think that's kind of a good way to go, rather? Because I think
I kind of think what Selfridges did with their unisex initiative this summer, that's been really good to help people understand those brands. Because with the success of London Collections Men, we've been going to the shows and we found ourselves ordering menswear, and that is a normal way of shopping for girls now. So that Selfridges thing has been quite brilliant because that's how we shop.
That idea, because the Selfridges thing you mentioned is that kind of like the gender neutral space that they've done where everything's for a boy or for a girl. Is that going to start to have an impact, do you think, on the way buyers are buying, the way other shops are laying out their floor?
I hope so, I don't know. All I know is that if I go to a shop like Machine A that I love, which is obviously working with Show Studio, the women's is very small and fitted. And if you want that kind of casual don't care look, you go for the men's. That just feels right.
But it's strange, isn't it? Everything's so segregated in fashion. I was even thinking it with the magazines, because there are men's titles or women's titles.
Like really quite a lot of the designers mix on the runway, like they mix men's with women's. Like Burberry will shot in menswear on the runway. Like quite a lot of Prada will sort of mix it up, like Prada. Or I think it just depends. Catering to your market and understanding the needs of the markets. I mean, I think some people suit presentations, but I also think that, like for me, Christopher Kane was one of the best shows of the week, and
but it was a selling show. That was a buyer's show. I thought. Do you know what I mean? It was great, but it was so good for a buyer.
But I think it was. But buyers might classically think that a presentation was easier because you could get up close to the fabrics, to the cut, and see how well it's constructed. And I think when you're starting as a designer, it's quite good to get. You always want to get people into the showroom and get them to look at the clothes to check that it's not stapled together. Because I think Rebecca was right. When you go to presentations, there's more character to the clothes, whereas runways, just by its very name, they have to be fast and furious. But I think this, it was such a slick show, and it had so many ideas. It was so beautifully constructed.
The problem with the presentations, if you ask a designer, is that all they're bothered about is the runway looks. So
I think
a
that's
presentation, you don't get
now.
that so much. I mean, some of the newswires like Vogue and Style.com are very good. Like if you present them with a set of lookbook images that you may have shot with one model prior to Fashion Week, they will put it up.
But even some of the young designers, like Ryan Lowe's not on Style.com, for example, it's really strange.
I know. I think it's a bit of a mistake, but he's, he will be next time. Let's put it that way. It's got to be.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? It's strange.
He's got so many people rooting for him that have gone to Style.com.
Yeah, I know.
Hang on a minute. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's really, really strange.
It was so good.
It was really good, wasn't it?
It was very grown up. It was kind of like his proper debut, I think.
It was polished.
Yeah, it was super polished, and not as kind of girly, and like it was a lot more womanly, I thought, but still with his like Ryan-esqueness.
It had a real beauty story behind it as well, and again, those are the things that promote these shows, having the right beauty and whatever. Noel Stewart did those beautiful
Lisa Meyer on makeup.
Headpieces, and Elizabeth Fraser-Bell did a beautiful job of the styling, and it was really great.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting with this is when we interviewed him, he did talk about it kind of being more grown up. He was like, I never do anything that's black, but we work with black. And he talks about his girls always kind of like trying to find love, and he was like, now she's like happy by herself. It was just really cute. It was like a really nice story.
Gary Carr did a great set for that show, and he did an amazing set at Roxanda. He did quite a few.
But that's my favourite. Those are always my favourite London shows, is when they tie together people who are all doing really exciting things. And I think that's part of what made this so exciting, is that Gary had done that set, and then Robbie and Elizabeth had done the styling, and Noel, who's like, everyone's obsessed with Noel at the moment after those J.W. Anderson hats that he did.
And everyone says they're leather and they're leatherettes.
They're so great, but then I think that's what's really nice, is seeing kind of the collaborative side of London, because that is something that keeps it going and keeps it alive.
It's like Ashley. I think Ashley's show had that kind of element as well. Like Fran did
beautiful executed production.
Yeah, exactly.
Fran
styling. It was just.
I didn't go to Ashley's show because it was right ahead of Anya, and it was like, you can't schedule a young emerging designer ahead of an advertiser, but they're not next to each other.
Yeah. I thought it was because it was so early in the day that it was not so busy.
But it was early, but also it was like rush hour traffic getting from Somerset House to Old Billingsgate.
Yeah, we were stressed that we'd get there in time, but Georgia May Jagger opened it, Alistair Lyle closed it, it was super polished. It had a great set design that everyone on Instagram with the disco keyhole.
The prints were amazing.
Yeah, and she translated those prints really well onto the accessories. It was super commercial, it was great.
No, it looked really great.
But she's actually on her way. Designer,
yeah.
I think it was the best show she's done so far.
I think so,
I
definitely.
think she's someone who's come up quite recently and is young, but has her head screwed on. She understands about building a business. And she's, she's got these kind of collaborations. She does Red or Dead Shoes. She was working with Coke, who obviously have more money than anyone else in the world, and it's like,
but she's done it in a smart
way.
And Fergus Purcell, who does Mark by Marc Jacobs, and
he does
a great old school graphic artist. He's done the graphics.
So I think she'll be the next one to do the Topshop collab.
And that's perfect for her customer as well, though.
Exactly. It's hard, isn't it? Because you look at it, and it does look super great, super polished. But then you think, it's great that we have people like Ashley, who are the kind of like young, kind of smart business mind. But you think, where's that equivalent space, and how do you also make time for people who? Because I love this, but it's not. It doesn't move mountains. It's not kind of redefining.
But what you were saying about the presentation, what was great about this was that it was a show. It was this cookie designer who would be amazing for a presentation, but she did a show, so it was almost like a juxtaposition of the fact that it was this slick runway. It really worked because of that.
But then you think you need space for people who don't have that kind of like the connections and the savviness that someone like Ashley is kind of lucky to have, like people like Ed Marlowe or people like Medium Kirchhoff. You think, how do you make sure that there's space for.
We were so dubious about actually doing a big show. You know, it was almost like, oh, it's too soon for her to. But it worked. But I think it worked because she had the infrastructure behind her.
Yeah.
And like Fran styling it gave it real gravitas. And then of course Georgia May opening the show. I mean, you know, I Instagrammed it. It got regrammed so many times.
Really, just like
it touched people, and you know, the right people.
I just think it's hard. I look at it and I worry that you think not everyone can do something like that. They can't pull like a Georgia May to open their show or something.
Yeah, but just because not everyone can doesn't mean that who can.
No, I'm not saying she shouldn't, but I think how do we as London, it goes back to what we're saying about support. You know, support the people who can't do that, for example. Because I think it's great that she can. I think it's brilliant, and I think she did a really good job with this show, and she's incredibly clever.
I think people like what you were saying about the collaboration. I think behind the scenes, for instance, Ryan's got Adam, you know, Phoebe and Rose. Like it's always good to have two brains, and I think there needs to be kind of maybe more encouragement, like we were saying in the other panel, like at school or at university, to kind of be that side of things, which can be just as exciting and dynamic, and you may not get to walk out at the end of the show, but you're still as involved.
Yeah, you're still making it happen.
So I think maybe that it helps people like Ryan and Phoebe, and obviously Ashley's
that was the reason I got into PR. I love that behind the scenes manipulation.
But I think you're right. I think you do look at young designers. I think if they were paired with someone who's really savvy from a business perspective, they can kind of pick them up and dust them off.
Yeah, I think that the ones that have it are incredibly lucky. I mean, you know, you've got to gel with that person. You can't just be put in a space with them.
Yeah.
But I always think that with the designers, going back to what you were saying about, you know, who's going to fall by the wayside if they haven't got enough money and all that. I always feel that, you know, and I know that Sarah Moa probably does go to visit a lot of the designers, but I do feel that when they're visited in their studio by somebody of authority in the industry, it means so much to them. It means they're being taken seriously, and then I think that in their own environment they can be comfortable enough to share some of their problems that they're having. Do you know what I mean? I remember Barbara at the BFC, when I was doing shows, she rang me one fashion week and said, just before the show, she rang me and said, hi, listen, I know you're doing a lot of shows this season, just want to check you're all right, you know, we're here if you need us. And it meant everything. Do you know what I mean? It for the designers, they really, really need that
validation.
Yeah, but going to their studio, I always believe that that's a real token of caring.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you say that, because I think, you know, it kind of goes back to what I was kind of maybe asking with Ashley, but I think we expect a lot of them. We expect, you know, we've looked at this and gone, you know, it's great, you had these major models, like opening, closing, it was so polished, it was like really, really amazing, and we're setting that bar so high that we think that this is
but there are other people on the schedule that are meeting that bar, and that I mean, we're talking about all the young ones and all the new ones, which is great, but there are a lot of really strong established brands that are drawing people to London to see these new brands, but also are kind of holding the structure together. And as much as it's very relevant to have people behind the scenes in the studio of the new team starting, I think all the names that, you know, from a Matthew Williamson to a Burberry to a Christopher Kane to a Mary Katrantzou to Ashley Williams, like, I think it's the whole mix of London together that it makes it what it is and makes it exciting. I think that, you know,
absolutely,
not everything is everybody's cup of tea, but I think if you look at the official schedule, the sort of like the variety of the names as you scroll through the days, I think that sort of potpourri of different designers is what really is the strength of London.
You know what else I noticed at Fashion Week? You know, there's this misconception that everyone goes to every show. They don't. We know they don't. But I noticed a lot of the editors going to a lot of shows. I mean, they don't go to all the shows, but really, because there's so much great stuff, they were really
no, but on
sticking to that
Monday,
schedule.
you can't. Sunday, Monday, you have to stick to the schedule because there's too much good stuff that you can't. It's like back to back.
But like you say, the younger designer, the established, there was just so much strong stuff.
But
that
I
they have
think,
to cover,
you know, as much
did.
as you were talking about doing guerrilla stuff, and I remember that, you know, doing the off-schedule days, I think that literally the way the schedule is done at the moment, you couldn't physically
and I agree with you, but what I'm saying is that the designers are put on this official platform very early on, and it's
possibly
a bit
too young, but
soon.
It could be too soon, but it's because the way it's structured now. I think that if they weren't put there, you'd look at you follow that list like it is your Bible for 5 days. Like,
you're right. If they weren't on it, you just have a copy.
We are talking about Ashley Williams though here, and I think she's a great example. She went through Fashion East, and she's done New Gen, and this is her. I think this is her coming out show.
Yeah,
her
like Ryan's
show.
Really, I think.
Exactly. Did feel the same for Ryan.
And no one expected Ryan to slam bam like that.
Yeah. I think that was
great.
Yeah. But I think London is the place that people look for young design. I think like the establishment is definitely in New York and Milan and Paris.
But that's not a reason for Matthew Williamson to go to New York.
No, exactly. And Gareth Pugh, obviously, we had like
that was amazing.
Yeah, let's talk about Gareth, because that was a real. I just think it was a really amazing moment to see.
10 years.
10 years, exactly. But I think also this idea that, we were all talking about kind of like, let's see them do this, like all these young designers, like have them grow up and do this, become more polished. And he's kind of always kind of like danced to his own tune in some ways. Like he hasn't.
Yeah, like when he did the presentation last season.
Exactly, but also just in terms of redefining what it means to be a successful designer.
Yeah.
To him, I think he's set. I think he's kind of thrown down this gauntlet to other young designers where it's not like you have to become like Christopher Kane to be successful. Not that there's anything wrong with Christopher Kane's model of success; it's brilliant. But it's business, Mount Street store,
bags.
Whereas Gareth's like actually, for me, it's amazing fashion films and collaborations with kind of, in theatre or dance or all these different kinds of things. And he's kind of, I think he's legitimised that as equally a path. And to see him back kind of after 10 years, it was just really, really amazing. Did you like the show?
Yeah, it was an amazing show to be at. It was beautifully staged, wasn't it?
It was kind of overwhelming.
Eerie. It was quite sort of it was quite a powerful thing to be at. It was quite, the way they plunged you into darkness before it all started. It was really eerie. But I think one of the things about Gareth is that he's got real integrity to what he, whether you love it or like it, it's like a Marmite. He is very sure of what he's doing, and I think that that's really admirable. And I think that this show really showed off his skill as a carter and his drape and his use of fabrics and textiles, and it showcased a lot of his showpiece designs, and it wasn't referencing the past. I think the thing with London is it doesn't reference the past. London always looks forward, and I think so often you can reference your last show, or last season we did this, or then this looked at the 60s, or this looked at the 70s. But I think with London it's always like trying to push ahead, and I think that although sometimes when you're trying to put together trends or overall things it seems a bit disparate, I think the thing that really defines London is that it's always looking for the new. And I think this wasn't retrospective, it was celebratory.
I think what was strange for me, probably having worked with Gareth, was that everyone was saying, oh, that was such an amazing show, and it's like, well, actually he does this every season in Paris.
Exactly.
Hang on a minute. But what was really special was, I thought, being there when it's his 10th anniversary was really great. But it was in the Raphael Gallery in the V&A, and some of those paintings in there, I mean, they're pretty historic. And the lighting of the show, it was almost like when Ruth Hogbin's film was playing at the beginning with Emmeline Valade, and she's putting on the red paint. The kind of shadows were going over. They looked like these paintings were burning. It was
that was so amazing.
It was quite special.
It was a reflection on the glass.
It was a privilege. It's always a privilege to be in that gallery, I think, and it's amazing that the V&A allow people to go in it. But it was so tight. It was well choreographed. It was brutal. The cutting was really brutal.
Do you think it made did it make you look around at other shows in London and think, oh, I wish they were a bit more of a show?
Not at all. I think, like
very
Camilla was
slick.
saying, there's a big scope. And Gareth got his place. And you know what? Him and Carson were so overwhelmed with the emails they were getting and the calls the next day. They could it was just heartwarming for them. And I think that was an amazing coming home. That it was supposed to be, really.
I think it's very inspiring. There are lots of people we haven't talked about yet. We haven't talked about Sibling, we haven't talked about Jodie Anderson, we haven't talked about Mary Katrantzou, Roxanda, Thomas Tate. I thought Thomas Tate's show was brilliant. That was one of my favourites. I thought it was really, really slick, and it looked really, really strong, really, really great. Did anyone else have any?
JW was amazing. Like just when you thought like you'd got a hold of everything, he just comes and does that, and you're like, what? I mean, it was just mad, but brilliant.
It was weird because it's interesting you say you thought you got a hold of everything, because I thought it was really different as opposed to what everyone else is doing. Like on a simplistic level, obviously everyone was doing 70s and then this was like really 80s. But it was also really different compared to what he usually does. You know, he's so good at blocking. You always expect to see kind of like...
And then to open that with the yellow boots and the print. It's just
exactly. Like... And every look was kind of an individual look, whereas we're very used to seeing
the metallic dresses. I mean, it was great.
Yeah, it was really, really good.
And it's slick. I mean, he seems to be like a sponge for his environments and learns so much and improves so much each season. And I think commercially he does very well, and obviously with the Loewe thing.
It's so exciting, Loewe now, isn't it? With him.
Yeah.
I mean, Mary Katrantzou won the Vogue Fashion Fund, so that's one we should look at.
Yeah, should we look at Mary? I think you can't, like, that collection is in kind of like unpicked to death, hasn't it, the JW one, but it's so good. I thought this was really interesting because I feel like Mary has so successfully kind of like established what she wants to be as opposed to what people saw her as, and I think, you know, it's really tired now to say that she's kind of like print queen, but I think that was really hard to shake, and I think she's done that really impressively. And just, I think she's been incredibly clever. You know, she's doing all the A to Z stuff. I think that's been a really good...
I love that.
It's really
so
fun.
cool.
It's really cool, but it's a really good way to push her accessories. I think it's really hard to get people to talk about your accessories if you're a young designer.
And I was in Browns this week, and that duffel coat that just flew past, it was in their press day, and it is beautifully finished. Like all the fabrics and the textures and how it is, you know, it's really intricately pieced together.
She's always been so hands-on. I've got a lot of respect for her. She's an amazing girl. She goes to all those trunk shows in Dubai.
She's so hands-on with her shopper.
And she follows it all up with the social media. She's really great.
Yeah.
But that's sort of the strategy that Mead & Kirchhoff should have adopted a bit more. Like, obviously there were reasons that they didn't.
Yeah.
But I think that those clothes have so much personality and so much of their hand in them.
Their heart.
And their heart, that they need to be kind of, not necessarily explained, but kind of communicated a bit more, and they should have been the people who did that.
Do you know what the amazing thing about Mead & Kirchhoff is? The clothes are so expensive at retail.
So expensive, that's the thing.
They sell. That's the thing they said.
I mean, I found myself seeing like a 2,000 grand shirt online thinking, but it's beautiful, shall I?
Yeah. Well, Ben,
you know,
that's that top tier of customer who doesn't care.
I think the problem wasn't that it didn't sell; it was getting it into the store. They were like, everything that we could produce. That's what they say. Everything they could produce
as fast as
and
they
get
could
to a shop sold. But sometimes they were fulfilling a tiny percentage of even what the store had ordered because they couldn't.
But you know what? They're so incredibly creative. They could be art directors. They really.
Yeah. I don't think their story is over.
Oh God,
no,
at all.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
But I think Mary was the right one to win the fashion fund thing with this collection.
And you forget there's a lot of stories in the media about you know, design. I think Alex in the Independent did that piece. Was it this week about who should win these fashion bursaries? I thought that was a really interesting piece to read, and it's good that someone's picked up on that. But you forget that when they do the panels for these, for the Vogue Fashion Fund, you know, they're looking at, you know, the business plans of the designers and how they're going to actually implement the funds that come in responsibly. So in a way, your document that you put forward when you apply for it is that's the thing that's going to, you know, you can speak to a load of fashion editors and say, oh, he's great, yeah, he's got to win. But at the end of that document, because the people that they have on the panel are really, they're the business side of the industry, so they have a really astute panel that make that decision.
And you're right, you don't want it to be a kind of like sort of saving
frivolity.
Piece of cash for a designer that can't build an adequate business. I think obviously you want to help people who need help on that business side, but you want to invest in what are going to become big British businesses, and Mary Katrantzou, like, you know, it's already incredibly successful. And that's really exciting to
I still see her as a young designer.
I think Simone's an interesting one to talk to as well. Like she's kind of had quite a quick upward trajectory, and this collection was. And
she's so low key. She just never plays on it.
She's really.
And her mother is the best ambassador, top to toe in her clothes. She looks incredible.
With the Dead Rush. She's my favourite person ever. I think she's so fucking chic. I love her. She's amazing. But I think Simone's a really good example because she's so tirelessly kind of, you know, done it on her own and made the points that, you know, she has her very own vision, but she's so lucky with the structure that's around her, you know, people like her mother and obviously like the fact that she's John Walsh's daughter is just helpful just by osmosis, kind of.
Dover Street Market have been big supporters of hers too.
Yeah.
I was sat with Alexa Chung at this show and she was just going absolutely nuts about,
really,
you know, certain dresses. It just,
But this feels like it has a really distinct voice. I think that's the thing. I mean, I think this show got a bit of flack because people said it was a bit too close to com, but then at least I feel like
she's always been accused of that, and she always will be. But you know,
but I think since she graduated, I think she's had a very strong signature right from the
get-go.
You know
it's her.
You know it's
and I also kind of don't like because she wears com, it's what she likes. So you kind of I kind of feel like it's
she's inspired by com.
Exactly.
You know, who
it's
isn't?
part of her life, exactly. And did we all feel this was a particularly strong show for her? It looks very different in the pictures to what it looked like being at the show.
It was. She had some really strong coats as well. I mean, you could just see the buyers being able to tick boxes with it. But no, it's beautiful, really beautiful. And her accessories, I mean, they're flying. When you see them in the stores, they're really concise.
Yeah, really.
And Rihanna's been wearing a lot of it.
Well,
you know.
Yeah, she's very
that
good.
always helps.
What can we imagine her future being? Because she's another one where I look at them and I imagine her going more of a Mary way than a Christopher Kane way, like kind of having her own thing and never. Like I'm not sure. I can't imagine Mary now being invested in by a big group. I don't know.
It's organic.
Yeah, I don't think you can
it's
put
moving at the right momentum, isn't it?
I don't think you can put people in boxes and say one will do this, one will do that. You know, I think Simone is very clever and she's got a very well-advised structure behind her, and I think she's going at the right pace for her.
Yeah.
She's in the stores that suit her, you know, and I think it's just a question of confidence and being. If you design something that you really believe in, if you can really stand by that design and justify it from every which way, then you've got the backing to put it in the right place, and you know what to do next instinctively.
She's very faithful to the customer as well. Like there's not a huge collection shift to this in the last two collections, but that's okay.
Sorry.
Okay, you've got my cup now.
Take
a drink. Maybe we should jump on to St Martin's, because I do think it is interesting that they are on the platform with London Fashion Week. Well, you know, with the Burberrys and the big established brands. I thought the knitwear was really good this season. That's what I remember. I mean, it's nice that there's a melee of everybody all coming out at the same time, but you also, you know, it's just for them to kind of have their 15 minutes of fame, I suppose, and say, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I'm about to become. And it's quite interesting, I think, to open London Fashion Week with something like this, and I think quite a nice way to sort of start to...
And we've just had Antonio Banderas is going to St Martin's, and Kanye West has been photographed with Debbie from admin, trotting around the campus.
It's so funny. We were talking about this actually.
I was trying to get information out of Debbie when I saw her the other day. What were you talking to about Kanye? She wasn't giving anything away.
But it's interesting because St Martin's almost become a brand in itself. I think that's what's interesting. Like you have this idea of. It's interesting to see it on the schedule because it's become so much more than a student showcase.
Matty won the award.
He's so great.
It's very, very cool. But I think what's interesting as well now is I think for a long time there was this idea that this was a showcase that you'd springboard to start your own label. But I think, you know, just talking to a lot of the students, they see it as a way of kind of nailing their signature and then being able to get the job they want in-house and being able to use it almost as like a...
This has every headhunter and every...
Testament to Louise. I mean, she really, you know, she had that hotline, they all rang up and she'd just say, you know, who... And of course, her memorial was that morning, so it was it felt like a really special day to be at London Fashion Week.
It did.
I was so happy to be at that show in the evening.
Poignant timing.
But then there wasn't anything made of it at the MA show.
No,
I think they carried on business as usual rather than.
But
she would have liked that.
She never made anything of herself at the MA show ever, which is why I thought it was really smart that you'd. Because I remember when I studied at St Martin's, if you were, because I did this course, but I did the journalism path, and we used to have to help out on it. And like, you know, she was such a presence almost right up until the show started, and then it was all about the work and all about the students. And you'd see her if you went backstage, you could chat to her. But I thought it was really fitting in a way that it wasn't, because she would never have done that.
There were some
when she was alive.
beautiful readings at the memorial.
Yeah, her memorial was lovely.
You know, about how every December she'd say, "Oh, we're not having a show. None of them are good enough." I mean,
yeah, she'd be like, "They're all crap."
Some real gems, and it was really beautiful.
But what's funny is every year, I think people did believe it. They'd be like, "Oh my god, this is the year she's not going to have the show." Yeah, I think she'd be very proud. But it is like just going through who we've talked about, like it's so, you see her influence on fashion so massively, even just not just in London, but like completely beyond. Yeah, it's really, really fantastic.
I really like Beth Postle in the show. I was lucky enough to be sat next to Stavros from Machine A at the show, and I found myself doing a personal order as the models walked past.
Yeah, Beth is great though, but how impressive that she's already selling, you know, when she's still a student.
Yeah.
I think that's
really Stavros does pick up on them quite early as well,
really
gives them confidence by giving them a platform.
Absolutely. So who should we discuss that we haven't discussed? We haven't talked about Jonathan Saunders. We haven't
Sibling.
talked about Sibling.
Marcus Almeida.
Yeah, Marcus Almeida. Who should we start?
Oh, that was what a cult following they've got. Oh my god, at that show.
I know.
It was like groupies.
Yeah.
We're actually doing a thing with them on Show Studio at the moment. It closes today. So if you're watching, where they want viewers to create a kind of an idea for a campaign for them. So shoot their own Marcus Almeida campaign, and they'll pick the one they like, and then we'll give them a piece of clothing, which is very cool. So it doesn't have to obviously have MA clothing in it. It just has to encapsulate the ethos. So enter that. Fun.
I like the tapestry stuff. That was new for them, and
Yeah, the press responded really well to that. I wasn't sure about it myself. I love all their denim.
But it goes back.
I love that they've moved on from the denim.
Yeah,
I know.
You know how everyone is doing the denim now. I even thought that we were looking at that.
But they still did new things with the denim, which was nice.
Yeah, but it's been so copied. Like the Alex Wang show we were looking at in the New York roundup, and obviously it was all black, but there was those it was chain embellishment, but it looked like frayed, and actually at first glance you thought, without Marcus Almeida, that notion of like fraying just it's so kind of seems so fashionable now.
Yeah.
But it goes back to what we were saying today about working as a pair and just having someone to bounce ideas off, and they're really different. If you meet Marta's very exuberant, she's very chatty, and I think they bounce off each other really, really, really well.
I can't believe the adulation they get. I mean, it is really incredible their following. I've even discussed it with Marta, one of the designers.
Yeah.
And I remember Ray Nadal from Machine A, who works with Nick a little bit. Yeah. I had a word with her about it because I was trying to, because she's a good test water for me. I think she's got an amazing personal style. And I said, Marcus Almeida, everyone I know is just going nuts. Yeah. She said she was really quiet, and then she went, they are probably the best designer I adore. Yeah. And she was part of that as well.
They're amazing. But the thing is, I never look at shows and be like, oh, would I wear that? Would I wear that? Because I think it completely changes how you kind of see it. But you just do with that. Like it's so easy to wear, and it looks so cool. And it's like, I think people are like, they've really made use of the street style thing. And
it's nonchalant.
I think they have made use of it. I think they're very good at knowing who looks good in it, and I think they have a big personal client basis, but also it's easy to wear, so everyone gets shot in it because it just is really easy to wear, and it's kind of they've really profited from that, and it's kind of.
I thought Ashish's show was pretty strong. It was his strongest one, and he did a really great stonewash denim that was like appliqued, and there was a bit of like pimp fake fur going on. That was really strong.
It's nice to see people doing actual day wear. I think that's another part of the appeal. It's like people always talk about day wear, but day wear means like a really fancy pencil skirt with like a blouse tucked in. So that's not actually day wear for most women.
A lot of them are doing day wear more,
but this is like actual day wear. This is
that's why everyone wears it to the shows and stuff, and that's like they've kind of like really won out there. In their personal orders evening, like everyone, even to buy the new season, was decked out in old season. They've killed it.
So I wear it so much. These are Marcus
and everyone's wearing. This is what people are wearing for the evening.
Exactly.
So that I
do think fashion kind of needs to readdress what we think day wear is, and I think the designers are doing really, really well.
I think that is happening through the whole streetwear, the discussions about streetwear.
But also I think through girls wearing guys' clothing, purely because I think there was a long while, which is part of the reason I think they've been so successful, where if you wanted to wear high fashion but you had a kind of casual style and you like wearing kind of slightly androgynous stuff, baggy stuff, you had to buy boys' clothes. There was literally no one doing it, and whereas now they've kind of tapped into that a little bit. Which is great. No, it was a really, really good show.
And stores like Goodhood, that pick up on those kind of labels that we can relate to.
Yeah. Their price point's really good as well.
Yeah, really good.
Really and then their fitting's not great.
No, the sizing needs work. I do think that. Yeah, I think enough people have told them.
Yeah, like some of the skirts are so short.
Yeah.
And they only recently won the award as well.
Yeah. I do think the problem is that there's also the changing in sizes. Like something that's like a top that'll be a 10, you'll get something else that's a 10, and then it's like. But then I think.
But that's something that they need to work on with their buyers as well. Like their buyers need to say, okay, we need to regulate this a bit more.
Yeah. But then in a way, to be that successful that you're selling so much that people have kind of noticed that, like, could any of us talk about the sizing for a lot of labels that we've just analysed? Probably not, because you've never even worn a piece. But the fact that do you know what I mean? Like, so I think it is kind of great. Should we talk about Sibling? Should we talk about Roxanda? I thought Roxanda's show was really, really beautiful. I think she's another one.
That's one of my favourite shows.
Yeah, well, what were you saying about
colour use was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really I dare to say it, the fur was amazing.
Yeah, really, really. But I think the thing is with her, she's got such a specific idea. Did you guys see the piece that Charlie Porter wrote in the FT, the Financial Times, this weekend about
so good.
The designers that wear their own clothes?
I thought that was an incredible feature.
It was interesting.
It's just I think it's a good idea, and it's something everyone talks about.
Really good.
And I think
really enjoyed that.
And you realise how kind of she's quite unique as a designer, Roxanda, in a way. And I think the way that she is about kind of her world and her style, and I just thought this was really beautiful, and it was really joyful. I think it's not for everyone, and I think she's fine with that. And
the shoes were amazing too. I know that Nicholas Kirkwood does them for her, but they were great.
I found the staging was such a waste, though.
The Gary Card staging.
It was beautiful, and but we were all like at the same level that you couldn't really see, and there was all that tiered seating in that venue, and
they probably had a better view.
Up there standing, you got an amazing view.
Yeah.
That was just something that. And
but they were supposed to see the underbelly of that staging, I think.
I guess so, but I just think
I know what you mean.
But then maybe that's that sort of toss-up, isn't it, between shows being made for those who are there and shows that are made for the web, because on the web it actually works really well.
That was it completely to a T, and it works, like the pictures are amazing.
Yeah.
But then what's the point of staging an expensive show? Just do an amazing lookbook and we can all look at the pictures and write from that. I mean, you're there to show people what you've spent however long making. Yeah. And I think it was just an absolute shame that it was done like that.
I think that Roxanda, like maybe Jonathan Saunders, they have this singular view and they stick to it, and she's got that, hallmarks that are distinctly her, and it just matures and it matures, and every show I go to I just think, oh my god, it's the best Roxanda show I've ever been to, and then the next one the same again.
I really associate her with colour.
I
think there's not a lot of London, but it's really specific colours, and I was actually
also
thinking about
midi length type
silhouette, kind of, very slightly dramatic, slightly historical. But there's not actually that many London designers that you would say kind of own a colour. I think Christopher came with purple a little bit, but not so much with.
And Jonathan Saunders with his textile graphics.
Like Jonathan Saunders, Peter Pilotto. I think London is.
But they're colourful, but you wouldn't. I think with Roxanne, you could always like that mustardy yellow. I look at it with a pink. You look at it and I'm like, I could see two swatches and go, that's Roxanne.
Yeah, she sold mustard to you, like Mitch Prada does.
Yeah. And Matthew Williamson, hot pink and turquoise.
Exactly. And who else shall we discuss that we haven't talked about? Sibling. Let's talk about Sibling. Which is always a fun one. I think what's interesting also with Sibling is that idea of kind of having such a specific thing to be really, really good at, and just to continue to get so much mileage out of it.
I think the latex this season was pretty amazing how they did that.
Amazing.
I think it was I went to the London showrooms and they were there, and all of it was like way better up close as well than I anticipated.
But that's a really hard thing with them, isn't it? Because going back to that idea of the toss-up between a presentation and a show, I'm so glad they do a show because their shows are so brilliant and they're really fun to go to. But then I always walk out of it going, oh, you're not going to see it in the show. If you're not going to London showrooms, it's such a shame, because I feel like I
think you do miss that.
It's amazing.
The detail in the knit. I mean, it is incredible what they do with knitwear.
Incredible. I don't know what they. It's a shame in London where there's not a way, if you're showing the official spaces, someone should speak to the BFC about this. I love those shows recently where they stop, where all the models come on, they do their walkthrough, and then they just kind of stop, and then everyone gets to go and take pictures of it. And you can't really do that in any of the official spaces. It doesn't
I think this has been something that's always been with shows though, hasn't it? I mean, I used to be a buyer years ago, and I'd buy a label like Catherine Hamner, and we'd do our order, and then we'd go to the show, and I'd want to change the order a little bit. That was the other way around.
You just want a way that everyone can see the clothes in the best way possible, and it's a hard one, isn't it?
But it was a great showcase for them. It was a really strong show, and there was some really beautiful. I think there was one fishnet type knit towards the end, which had sparkles in it, and it was almost like that real punk sibling sophistication.
Yeah. I love the way they do punk, because I think punk has been like done to death.
I love that latex skirt, the pink one. That was such a good look. It had what's the slogan on the top? Because that was a really cool outfit.
Yeah.
I like that look.
We also haven't done Fashion East yet as well.
Yeah, Fashion East we should do.
Which is interesting.
There's too many, aren't there?
Everyone was going crazy for Caitlin Price.
Yeah, I think she's great.
Yeah.
I like Mary Benson, the other one, actually. And then, of course, Ed Marler's show, Reba Maybury opening Ed Marler's was just brilliant.
So
brilliant. I love that show.
She's like the perfect muse for him.
And Harriet Verney was in the show as well.
Yeah. Larry, who's in every show ever.
I know. Why did I feel like Fashion East got a lot very, very good press this season? Why do you think everyone liked it so much?
Was it quite early in the week though? It's a Friday evening,
wasn't it? It was on a Friday night, wasn't it?
So I think early was good
really
for
good
them.
memory from when everything
They're
happened.
not that early, are they?
It was
usually?
no. Normally it's kind of on like
Tuesday.
the Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, so I think
at
that
some point.
benefited them.
Yeah.
But I think it was. I don't know. It was kind of a bit of a bun fight when we were in there, because it was
You had
there
to
was
go
a
all
bit
the way
of a problem with
upstairs.
communication, because there was the Ed Marler show was a salon show, and the other couple were presentations, and that wasn't communicated.
Yeah.
So you had people dashing upstairs to see Mary Benson and Caitlin Price, and then going downstairs and then waiting for an hour.
I heard that some of the later guests
and you just thought
didn't know that that was it. Some of the later guests were told to rush into the show, but they didn't know that there was a presentation as well. I think they felt shortchanged that they missed the presentation bit.
So that's tricky.
Yeah.
But it's scary, isn't it, with fashion shows? Because I always think about this. It's like sometimes it's the time, and I learn about it sometimes through working with designers, where you realise it's the tiniest thing that can mess it up.
They were worried about the ICA because they had to go all the way to the top gallery and then all the way to the show. But when I don't know, I got there quite early and it was all very well communicated and signposted and what have you.
But it's even sometimes I think I've gone to Fashion East presentations where you can't actually work out whose is who.
Yeah.
And there's not a press release.
But you always do with group shows. I think that's always an issue.
But
Even at St Martin's, I'm like going cross-eyed.
So you think, just even like literally tape a piece of paper to the floor with the person's, and you think the long-term ramifications such a tiny little, and I think that's where the BFC is great, but also just having real communication. It is going back to press and buys and everything, where people can help young designers. So we all walk away thinking it, and then I think actually it's a really good thing to tell the designers.
But Lou, on the newswires, like St Martin's show, when it's on Vogue and Style.com, quite often they never put the names of the designers on them. I had a little recap before I came here today on the St Martin's show, and I noticed that on the first look of each designer they put their name.
It's hard,
which I was surprised, thank goodness.
And it is so easy for people to get stuff wrong, and
they used to have Fashion East where they just said fashion. In fact, I saw something today. It was in a roundup, and they credited some names of designers, and there was one of the Fashion East there. And again, it's a bit lazy journalism. They just put Fashion East as the credit for that.
But I think it goes back to that idea of St Martin's being a brand in itself and Fashion East being a brand in itself. There's like people. It's almost like, and the curation of Fashion East is really important. So actually, often it does work as an entire kind of showcase for what Fashionista is about, not just a platform for those designers.
It's really difficult in the multi-shows, because you get a lot of people come up to you after the show and ask you questions about it on camera, and you haven't got used to who was who yet. It's almost like, I go home and I kind of Google and I see other people's Instagram and I try and work out so I can credit things properly.
Ed's casting is just so perfect for him.
Yeah.
But it's also great because it's like, it's his mate, so you kind of look at it and you think, well, at least he's finding ways to be able to do all the things he wants to do without the cost.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it's a real London show. It's Fashion East. It's at the beginning of Fashion Week. It had that raw energy. It was a great mix of three designers. I think Fashion East is going from strength to strength.
It is hard, isn't it, though, because you just think of this notion of people being pumped through. Like, I almost kind of don't want to see someone new next season. Obviously, I do. I'll be excited next season, but then it's that.
But they don't for the sake of it.
No, they don't for the sake of it. But then I wonder, would they ever go, actually, we're only going to take one person this season? You don't see that.
Or do a Martine Rose and just do like one look, one season. That was so good.
Just do something completely different.
Yeah. I think it is that pressure that it's got to be 3 or it's got to be this, and in a way. you want a bit more fluidity, you know, maybe actually we're just going to put it all behind one or what have you.
Well, they did put it behind 3. I think that it suited an installation for those 2 designers. You know, they weren't ready to do a runway. And I think as a visitor to Fashion Week, I know that you had a more difficult experience there, but I quite like the fun of you see the installation and you go in the show. It's quite a nice, fun format.
I do like that.
When it's done properly, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
and it's, you know, it's a great way to not tick off
you
loads
can
of
see the energy
at once,
in these. Are these backstage shots?
No, this is
the installation of Mary Benson. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And again, she had a good team. Like Isamaya did her makeup, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, that was gorgeous. Isamaya's, she did blusher, which was like little rainbows on the cheeks. It was so cute.
I think Isamaya has done
She's
so
a
much.
star.
She's amazing, but also for making like beauty a big thing on the catwalk. I think for a while it got so uniform and now like she's amazing. I think she's so brilliant.
Sharon Dowsett did great makeup at Sophia Webster's presentation. That was great. Shona Heath did a brilliant installation. It's very, very cool. I love that triadic ballet with the round structures. It was really great.
Really good. But that's what I was saying before. I love it when it's kind of this notion of bringing together people who all encapsulate kind of your ideas and doing something really. Yeah, it's just like all the people you like collaborating with. Who have we missed? We haven't talked about Burberry. We haven't talked about some of the big ones, but maybe they're there to facilitate us talking about the
I just wanted to say that Sophia Webster, she always does a really exciting presentation, and I always think when I go to them, oh my God, thank God she's at London Fashion Week. She always contributes something really solid, and it seems to be a place where, because it's a presentation, everyone's engaging with each other, and
everyone's talking to each other.
it seems to be an Instagram explosion.
Molly Goddard as well.
Oh yeah,
Molly Goddard, that was so good.
So good.
It was just perfect. She's amazing.
I think it's very, very, very cool. And just for the sake of obvious, because this was like a life drawing class, and there was a nude man in the middle being drawn by the models, which I thought was, for all the naked women we see across Fashion Week, it's really nice to see a naked man.
She's great, Molly. I really like her as a person, and Dover Street are really behind her, and it's kind of this daytime couture.
Yeah. But what I like about it as well is that you can see it's I like it when you can tie things to each other in a way, and you can see this kind of response to a way that women enjoy dressing, and you can draw parallels between, like, you know, Medium in this or Simone Rocha in this, and that's nice because you see that has a footing, but then it's really her own point of view, which I think is nice. I think this got such a great reaction, which it was also. It wasn't just about that presentation. It wasn't like that was the only thing people were Instagramming. It was the clothes.
I couldn't go to this one because there was a lot going on around that time. But I think I can't remember whose was at the same time, but
it was quite a hectic moment.
I couldn't possibly get there or something.
So what were our takeaways from London Fashion Week then? It seems like we liked everything. Were there any low points that we've missed?
I don't think it's worth focusing on low point. I think for London you have to just focus on the positive. I always think. If you're going to write a review, if you're going to really slash someone in half, it's better to say nothing than something negative. And I think particularly for London, when you've got so many exciting new names, you should just focus on the positive, not.
But that's what the negative was. There was so much great stuff that none of us had the energy to consume it all. That's the PR speaking.
That's the downside. We're all knackered. Well, that's quite a good note to end on, actually, isn't it? So should we given that they have given us a lot of food for thought and just like a really great Fashion Week, should we give everyone a round of applause?
Yeah,
I think yes.